I'm Tom Prince with Western New York Athletics, and boy, 3 major programs that we have here that we're going to discuss today here in Western New York. Couldn't wait to talk to these coaches, but you're going to hear some great programs, great players, and we're going to hear a lot from these coaches and learn a lot today. So, with our introductions, we're going to start out down in the South with Olean. Les Degolier is my first guest. Next, from Grand Island, Dean Santorio. And then from Williamsville East, Jerry Gasz. Guys, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. So my first question is a little bit of a fun question. Is if you've ever watched the movie, there's a great movie out that's called The Final Season. It is based on Norway High School out in Iowa. And the coach is actually Jim Van Scoy is his name. He is a former high school coach. He has won Coach of the Year throughout the United States. He has also coached here in Niagara Falls in the New York Penn League. And he had a pre-game ritual that he felt that his infield had to be done in less than 9 minutes is what he felt. And he also felt that he had to take the field first to do his warm-ups so the other team could sit and watch him. And he felt it was a competitive advantage and he would get a jump on the other team right before the game even started. So my question for you is, do you ever feel that you can take a competitive advantage to where you could win or lose a game before the game even starts? Les, let's start out with you.
It's funny that you asked that question because my wife and I just watched that movie probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. Really good movie. But as far as the advantage goes, it's funny because when you take infield, I've had games where it was like one of the worst infields I've had, and we go out and we play like dynamite, and it's like, wow, I didn't expect that. And then the flip side, we've had an infield where you hardly make an error, and then you go out and you play like garbage. So I guess, you always want to look solid. You most times the other team is watching, even if you don't go first. It seems like there's somebody watching and kind of gauging you. So you do want to look sharp. But at the same time, if somebody's watching the ball around, you don't want to get on too early. The game hasn't started. So I'd say that's first. And as far as the competitive edge, I want our guys to play their game. I want them to think about what they can do. And if you're too worried about the other team, I feel like that takes away from it a little bit. So I don't really, if I go first or second, it doesn't really affect me a whole lot, I guess.
Okay, fair enough. Dean, how would you answer that one?
Yeah, I'm very similar to what Les just said. I think the bottom line is, I think obviously your preparation before a game and your thoroughness obviously can help you win or lose a game. But, let's be honest, as coaches, you need to have some talent that year. You need to still that day go out and execute and perform every day. So I think there's a little to that, but I think in the long run, once you get on the field, as well as anyone watching a lot of baseball and being involved in it, you can win or lose every day. So I still think you need to perform. I think the only real maybe mental edge you might have is if your programs had great tradition and a ton of success, maybe mentally the other team or their other kids, I wouldn't even say the coach, the other kids on the other team might feel as though, hey, can we beat that team today? They're always tough. They're always good. Maybe you have a mental edge that way. But the bottom line is you got to play every day, and you could face a pitcher on any given day that goes out and beats you. So I'm in the mindset that there's not much of an advantage once you start playing.
No doubt. Great answer right there. Jerry, how would you answer that? Now, you have kids that you've had in your program that could apply this to other teams, which is, Dean, exactly what you were talking about there, right? You got kids, you've had pro scouts at your games. You've had it all. Do you feel that this could ever be something that applies to you?
Well, I believe there can be a mental edge. However, I kind of agree with the guys that you still got to go out there and do the job. And in our case, we get out at 3:00. So let's say I'm playing either Dean or I'd see what's it last.
Yep.
Okay. Let's say I'm playing one of them. All right. Now they got to travel some distance. So by the time we get out there, go through our routines, playing long toss and stretching out and running and that, many times by the time they get there, we've already done our infield. Okay. And we get that out of the way. And I've got 2 batting nets inside and I have 2 batting nets outside. So I pretty much, when they get on the field, the other team, we're done. Now, that's not necessarily the case when we're on the road. So they get a chance. And I believe your team's got to have a little swagger, because I believe that if you go out there and you look sharp, yeah, that's going to plant the seed in their head that you're for real. And I also agree with Dean on if you have a reputation and you have a rock solid program year in and year out, that can weigh on a team's mind. I think the most important aspect of baseball is the mental edge. But I don't necessarily have to go first or second. I've got to go out there sooner or later, and they're going to see. The thing I like about playing at home, especially, is I'm done. You don't get to see my outfielders in their arms and that. And we've kind of changed our format a little bit, where we were playing in many years 7 days a week, and we're very careful with our arms, and outfielders were complaining of sore wings. So guess what? For the last 4 or 5 years, we throw the bases in practice. We don't in a pregame warm-up anymore. They go out and they shag their balls, but we don't divulge their arms. So that's one thing. And we have not had a complaint in the last 5 years that anybody's got a sore wing. So that was one routine that we changed dramatically. Let's face it, kids don't always warm up properly. Okay, they're teenagers and they think they're infallible, and they don't stretch enough, and they don't warm up. Some kids can be ready in 10 minutes. Some may take 20 on that. So we're very mindful of their arms on that. So that may work for that gentleman in Iowa, but it doesn't really matter to me. You still got to go out there and look sharp. But I think it's important you play with a little swag out there, and you skip to the steps, so to speak, and plant that in that, you're for real and you're here to win.
There you go. So you take a little bit of his philosophy there, even though his was different how he did it. But I like your philosophy right there, no doubt about it. So great answers, you guys. So my next question is to kind of build off that one is, and Coach Jerry, you've answered this a little bit, but what does your pregame look like? And again, it may be different home and on the road, which is exactly what Coach was just alluding to right there, right? So what does your pregame look like? And is there anything that is separate or that you really need to see happen before they take the field to know that they're ready? Dean, let's start with you on this one.
Well, it's funny. Years ago, I used to go out there as a young coach and throw every single day and throw live BP before games. And, you get older, your arm gets sore, had 2 shoulder surgeries. Well, I decided about, 10 years ago, listen, I'm not throwing BP and throwing 200 pitches a day. We started hitting just indoors with Incrediballs, and I'd have 4 guys swinging the bat at a time indoors. And that was our ritual now for 10 years. And we don't go outside and take BP on the field. And the reason why is, and what I've noticed is, you get more repetitions, more good repetitions. Guys aren't trying to swing the bat and take the ball out of the ballpark. You're indoors in the gym, so they're hitting line drives. My kids got used to pitching to our own kids inside with the Incrediballs, and we got a lot more done in a short period of time without kids standing around and not shagging balls anyways, and also taking poor swings, and you're getting a ton of pop flies and a lot of ground balls chopped into the ground. So that's kind of something we've went to. And the only other thing I'd say is I just think you're always, as a coach, always emphasizing the mental aspect of the game, how certain things like base running is important, and talking about situational baseball before a game, and maybe just reviewing some things on a day where the day before you made 2 costly base running mistakes. It cost you a run or 2 and cost you a game. So you reiterate that the next day before you take the field in the dugout, before you get out on the field. So I think something simple like base running and going over situational stuff wins and loses you games. And last year, we actually put the youngest team on the field I've ever put on a field. We started 2 freshmen, 4 sophomore, 1 junior, and 2 seniors. And we probably lost 6 games by a run or extra innings. And almost every time it came down to young kids making some base running mistakes. And those are things that sometimes you take little things for granted with younger kids. And if you don't make sure you cover those things, it costs you at some point. So I just think, reiterating all that mental aspect before you take the field on top of your basic regular routine that you've gotten into. I think kids got to believe in what you do on top of all that. If they don't believe in what you do, you're going to struggle at any level coaching, and any sport for that matter.
Wow, great answer there. Jerry, how would you answer this one?
Well, first of all, our approach on the road is different than when we're home. Usually, 9th period, I check to see how many kids are free that period. All right, that's the last period of the day. So that's around 2:05, and the bus doesn't come till around 3:15. So one of the things I ask the kids to do when they get there, I want them to stretch and cut some of the prep time down, because as the other coaches are aware, sometimes you don't have the proper time to stretch because you get there 20 minutes. You have 20 minutes once you get off the bus. So we try to cut that in half. Then we'll loosen up and throw, and then we'll hit. Now, when we're on the road, we stay inside. We have pretty good facilities. We have a batting net at each end of the gym, okay? And then if we wanted to take some infield, we could set an infield up. And we also have 3 pitching mounts, so we can have all that going on at once. But we've got a good 40, 45 minutes. So we always hit before we go on the road. In addition to that, while some guys are waiting, we'll do tee work, and we'll also soft toss, all right, to get their reps in and get ready. When we're home, we go outside. And what we'll do is we'll stretch. Then we'll do, some light running, and then, play some long toss and get those arms stretched out. And then usually when everybody is ready, what we'll do is the infield will set up, and we'll send the outfielders down in the 2 batting nets out in behind right field. And they'll hit out there, and then we'll reverse that. And then we'll hit balls to, the outfielders, when they come in. So it's pretty regimented. I'm retired, so, it's not a problem for me to get there at 2:05. And it helps because there's enough guys. There may be 6, 8 guys. Those are the 6, 8 guys that don't have to hit when it comes 2:50 and the kids are getting out. So we're able to get everybody in there and give them, give them their reps. But, and Dean talked about, working on situations. We do that. We play, a lot of times we'll play situation baseball at the end of practice, and we'll set up a team in the field, and we'll hit balls all over and set up situations that they can work on. You know, like if we have a first and third, I may throw the ball out to the pitcher and we may tell a guy to take off and we'll work on rundowns, for example. So, you know, we do a lot of that. Each of our kids have received defensive assignment sheets, a packet with their names on them. They're to study them. They're to know every position on the team and where they're supposed to be. Because the one thing that I don't tolerate, I can accept physical errors. That's part of the game. But the one thing I don't tolerate, and they know, are mental errors. Okay? Because that's important. That's what can beat you. And I give quizzes. I give written tests. And I spring them. And I'll tell them, you know, maybe in a couple of days there'll be a test. And, you know, I'll sit down and like take their defensive packets and go through situations with them and ask and start firing questions. They'll be sitting there. So it's pretty regimented in our program. Now they have time to have a few laughs and have a good time. You know, I understand that. But once we step in the gym or step on the field, we're all business. And I'm the type of guy that they know that I'm willing maybe to sacrifice a little defense early in the game. If you hit the ball, you're going to play. That's the bottom line. I don't know of a coach in America that's going to keep a good stick, you know, on the bench. You can pull them out in the fourth or fifth inning. And of course, you know, with the re-entry rule, I mean, you have multiple options.
Wow. So great answer there, Coach. Les, how would you answer that one?
Yeah, it's different for home and away for us too. At home, I like to utilize both indoor and outdoor. We have a batting cage and tees set up so that players can kind of rotate. I'll split up the outfield and infield usually, and my assistant will go out or I'll go out. And, you know, we'll hit fly balls to the outfielders while the infielders are swinging, and then, you know, switch it up halfway through and just get extra reps, talk about specifics to those two parts of the defense and things like that. And yeah, when you're away, you know, you're like the coaches have said, you're kind of limited to what time you arrive, and you don't like to be hurried at all. And then also building in that time for each player. Some guys like to stretch a little bit more on their own. Some guys like to throw a little bit more on their own. So it's nice to have a few extra minutes. Some guys like to just relax and sort of think things through. And it's nice to have a few extra minutes built in so each athlete can do what he needs to do to get himself ready. So yeah, a little of each depending on when we're home or away.
The problem, Les, is like for us, away games, and that's why you've got to be really highly organized. Mm-hmm. We're 15 minutes away from the nearest entrance to get to the thruway. And if we hit that at the wrong time, let's say we're going out to play Hamburg, we could be in big trouble because now you got to deal with the traffic. And I try to bypass the Amherst water tower there because that's where the juggernaut is. And, you know, Dean's got some schools, you know, down in Newport and Niagara Falls. He doesn't have to worry about those, but he does play teams up this way. So, and when you get out, I mean, you got to worry. You basically got to get a lot of your stuff, your pregame done before you get to your opponent's diamond. Because you don't always have a lot of time. And then you got to deal with the umpires, you know. And I've had to say on numerous occasions, I got 20 minutes, you know, and you know, because these guys want to go, get the game over and get paid and leave. And so you really got to crack the whip and get things going. But the kids are pretty used to the routines, and they know there's a big difference between being home and playing on the road.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. Well, let's get to what I always talk about is the fun part of the program. This is where you guys get to recognize now the players on your teams and hopefully the players that'll get a chance to take the field. But whether they get a chance to take the field or not, we want to make sure they get the time to get recognized because there are a lot of great players here in Western New York, and we want to make sure we take the time that you get a chance to recognize those players. So, Les, I'm going to start with you down in South, right? You are one of the powerhouses in the South Towns. There's no doubt about it. Olean is constantly competing for a sectional championship. You know that Olean is always going to be a tough game, whether you play them home or away. So let's talk about the makeup of Olean.
Yeah, this is going to be my third season, and I felt like I was kind of starting to hit my stride first as a coach. You know, that first season, your head's sort of spinning. Second season, you're sort of tinkering around. So I was really excited personally to get into my third season as the varsity head coach. And I do have a young crew. I have 5 seniors on I was looking to keep 13 on the roster and only 5 seniors, so we're 8 underclassmen. The seniors have all contributed over the years. A couple of them have spent a little bit of time as sophomores on the team, so some big contributors there. I have first Quentin Jordan. He was looking to have a big senior season. He hadn't had a whole lot of time as a junior, but as a senior, he was looking to play some outfield. He could really rip the ball when he gets a hold of it, and so he was looking to be a contributor. I have Trey LaRue, who actually is going to play ball for Madai next year, so that's nice. And he's a super fast kid who makes things happen on the base pass and patient at the plate. So he's kind of a shorter guy and can draw some walks. And then when he gets, like I said, once he gets on, he's trouble for those pitchers to keep him tight and not be swiping bags and things like that. But so we were looking to see big things from him. I have Henry Scanlon, also a senior, and ended up last year moving from third base to the outfield for us, where he really kind of found a great niche there. He has a strong arm and has a lot of pop from the left side of the plate, quick hands. Really was looking for a lot of big things from him as well. He'd spent a lot of time in the offseason with me and kind of hoping he gets his senior year. And then Cole Anastasia, really big kid. He was first baseman for us and shared time at first base last year. Didn't ever get his bat going the way he would hope, or I knew he was capable of, and really was looking for him to be a big contributor his senior year. And then my captain, Nick Fredrik, Angelo. I've coached this kid since he was a freshman in football. Played varsity football as a freshman at middle linebacker, so he's that kind of an athlete. Tough kid, great leader because of his experience on varsity teams, and can just hit the ball. He was injured last year, had a knee injury, didn't get back until about halfway through the season. And as soon as he got in the lineup, he was just a huge addition. He was spraying the ball all over, hitting line drives, and was looking for the opportunity to actually have a full season as a senior and really be the leader of this team. And then, like I said, we're mostly young. So I have 3 sophomores that spent a lot of time with me last year. They would be juniors this year. So they're juniors this year. 2 of them, our basketball team won sectionals, and I hadn't even really gotten to work with them yet. So actually 3 of them, there's a third that I hadn't worked with and was looking forward to that. The first week they were still at basketball practice, so their season got cut short, unfortunately. But Nick Pantuso, he started in center field for me, and last year finished the season with a hot stick. He kind of struggled throughout the season from the plate, and at the end of the year, he had some huge hits. Our win in the playoffs, we had a 1-run game, and he had the winning RBI and things like that. So it was awesome to see him really catch stride late in the season. Jason Brooks, a sophomore, he ended up being my leadoff hitter last year. Really hit well for average, and then surprisingly, he was popping the ball at the end of last year. He would have been my shortstop this year, and also probably definitely in the top 3 on my pitching staff. So those are a couple of young guys that was looking for big things. Adam Spencer primarily played JV, but he moved up to pitch for me when we went down south last year in Myrtle Beach. I brought him with me because I knew I would need an extra arm, and he just overperformed right from the get-go, and then pitched a couple games in our league schedule last year, and really helped to stretch out those innings for me. A few juniors, Eric Havens, he has a lot of pop. He was going to be competing for this job either at first base or in the outfield, but he's the type of kid where I was going to have to find, like Coach said earlier, I would have to find a spot for him in my lineup because he can hit. And so I was looking for big things from him. I graduated my catcher, my backstop for the last 2 years, in Jarrett Preisel. I mean, just a solid catcher. And this Dominic Ramsey was going to move up and take his role. So was looking for big things out of him, trying to fill some big shoes. And then Brett Miles and Chase Kratz, my last 2 juniors. Again, we have a third baseman and a second baseman there that we're looking to compete for time. And then one sophomore this year, Riley Silvis, was going to move up and pitch for me. He's our quarterback on the football team, so naturally he kind of fits in the pitcher slot, and he's got some good zip for a sophomore, and was working with him in the off season and really looking for some good things out of him as well as a sophomore. So yeah, I mean, youthful, but still a lot of experience because of last year's team. We went 3 games deep in the playoffs and was hoping to really build on that foundation that, like you said, we've had some successful years these last 3 or 4 years, especially. And we're hoping we can get out there. So
yeah, like I said, fingers crossed. We'll see what happens. But okay, now let's go on. Dean, we're going to talk about Grand Island. Young team last year. You had graduated a lot the year before. Young team. That young team now is getting some experience to hit the field. No doubt Grand Island's going to be right back in the mix of things, especially in an NFL league that is a tough game day in and day out there. Let's talk about the makeup of Grand Island.
Yeah, we're, like I said, youngest team we ever put on the field last year. We're bringing back basically 7 to 8 starters from last year. I think our strength of our team would be our pitching staff. All 3 starters are back. Logan Cianco, who's a junior, really good basketball and volleyball player. He's back. Zach Kramer was one of our other starters, had a fantastic year. Both of them had just below a 3.0 ERA last year, and they logged a lot of innings. And then Jonathan Simpson, who's only a sophomore this year, he threw for me as a freshman all year. He had a really nice year on the mound. We didn't give him a lot of run support, but he hits the ball extremely well, and he'll be in the middle of our order with Logan and Zach. And then we return a third-team all-league player. He's a senior. His name's Mike Jutman. He played outfield for us last year, but will probably slide into second base. He hit 341 for us last year and had a really nice junior year. We bring back 2 starting outfielders, junior Jack Dugo-Kinski and sophomore Tyler Figliola. They both have extremely good speed. They're very good base runners. They provide a lot of speed in the outfield. They probably didn't hit for the averages they would have liked to last year. But again, they were a freshman and a sophomore at the time. So I think you're going to see their averages would come around this year with another year under their belt. We also return our catcher, who was only a sophomore last year, Joe Knight. Had a really good year behind the plate for us defensively. Again, same thing as a sophomore, struggled a little bit at the plate, but bringing him back's a big deal for us. We also have a kid that DH'd for us. That's one of our 3 seniors. His name is Pat Dora. He'll play some outfield for us and swings the bat really well. And then we have a couple guys that, we're hoping to get in the lineup at some point. We have another senior catcher named Rob Arch. That's back for his second year. We have a transfer sophomore named Aiden Sabrino that's a catcher that we're looking for big things, especially in the future from him. And then a couple guys up from the JV. His name's Joey Novak, who's a junior, Alex Wright, who's a junior, Danny Tyson, who's a junior. And actually we have a kid coming out for the first year that was part of our state championship volleyball team, Billy Weberg, who's probably the best volleyball player in Western New York. Played baseball his whole life till 8th grade, gave it up because of the volleyball. And he came out as a junior, and he's got a lot of ability. He's just raw. So he'll be with us this year and next year as well. And then another player that just came out for his first year, Dominic Ramsey. So we have 15 guys. Again, very happy with all of them, and hopefully another year of experience on their belt makes a difference.
Fantastic.
I'm envious, like a young team.
So
you
let's
never
go
know,
over
right? You never know.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Well, they're only kids, but I'll tell you what, when I don't have a problem with taking young players, there's 2 things I look for: the skills But what's got to be there is the maturity. And if the maturity's not there, I'll leave them down until we think they're ready. My JV coach and I, we get yelled at by our wives all the time because they're on the phone every night talking. But I'm envious. That's a great nucleus game.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it.
So, Coach, we're going to go to you. Perennial powerhouse in Williamsville East. Everyone's got that game circled on their schedule. There's no doubt every year you're going to compete for a title. You've had some phenomenal players go through there already. You've got more that are still there at that school. We know that Williamsville East is going to be a tough out in a very tough division this year. Let's talk about the makeup of Will East.
They're all tough. Well, let me say this. There's not an easy game. They're only kids, and you could go up against a team. The equalizer in this game in high school baseball is the pitcher, and if you play relatively good defense, your team's going to be in the game, and anything can happen. There's a lot of pressure on us. We're looking to 5-peat, and the last 4 years we've gone 44-4 in the conference, and we have JV players coming up that are going to have to contribute because we've been hit 2 years in a row now. We've been keeping larger squads because we look down the road, but we got hit pretty heavy in our pitching staff this year. Our catcher, Joe Mack, is a junior. This is his 5th year. He's had a lot of accolades over the years, and he's got pretty big footsteps to follow in his brother on that, and of course Charlie had a great work ethic, and we're working on it with Joe. He's still a little young, but we made him a captain this year. But like I said, he was the player of the year in the B newspapers, and he was all Western New York, and he was all conference, and he was the sophomore catcher on the Mack's Preps All-Star team, which is quite an accomplishment because you're talking the whole country. He had verbally committed to Clemson. The fact remains, what's going to happen, I'm sure some of that may the decision on that may be what Charlie's experiences are with, Minnesota. The parents may decide he should go to school. We don't know. I mean, he's got 2 more. He may only have 1 year to go. This team, obviously he's our best player, and we have guys around him that can protect him. But sometimes we got certain coaches who will remain nameless. Sometimes I have to take him out of the 3-hole and lead him off. And he's got good speed, but I've had teams that will throw him nothing to hit because they're afraid he's going to lose the ball. And we've had to put him in the leadoff spot. Then we're going to steal second base. And so if you want to start the game off that way, that's fine. But a lot of times they'll try to take the bat out of his hands. He's, and they'll throw him a lot of off-speed stuff and breaking balls. Now, I told you our team over the last 4 years has gone 44-4, and we are looking to 5-peat. But there are no easy games, and we play a pretty competitive schedule outside the conference. In our division, and like I said, anybody can beat you on a given day. But he makes life a lot easier for us because he's got a pop time of 1/8. All right, pretty tough to run on, especially if there's a left-hander out there. If they're going to steal it all, it's going to be off the pitcher, and we keep guys pretty close. He's going to have his work cut out for him because we got hit pretty heavy, pitching wise. We've got, and I'm confident because we started open practices back in September on the turf. We've been working out. We worked out from September. Anybody can come. all age levels, anybody in the school, and we worked right through just before baseball. That was a great advantage for us because in the fall we were outside a lot on the turf, and we had to go inside. That's all now gone because of what has happened. We have inexperience on the hill. All right. We've got 14 guys that I would not hesitate to go to. So we have plenty of pitching depth. The question is, how much will the kids from the JV, and we got some good arms down in the JV, guys throwing in the 80s, how quickly they gel and mesh, with the rest of the team. And then Joey's going to have a big say, because he's our handler of pitchers, but we've got plenty of arms. So the question is the big guy on the hill for us will be Trevor Mcelroy, who's a third-year varsity player. He 2 years ago when he was a sophomore, he was our number 3 behind Gunnar Wepner and John Moran. And last year, he was up near the top, but he probably will be our number 1. We've got other guys that can throw also that we're going to take a look at. We've got some pretty good size. Jake Clone's about 6'5", and he was the big gun down at JV. And we've got Aiden Wojciechowski and Nate Milk and Trey McClay and Brendan Bocello and Ryan Skidmore and Ryan Simondera, whose father played for me back in the day, Glenn McClay, Riley Innerthar. So we go pretty deep on the hill. And so if games get piled up, we're not going to be hurting. It's just that we need to get some experience there. The infield, he's a sophomore now. We only made one error a year ago, and it was a ball he had a charge, and he kind of bobbled it. He had to come a long way to get it. We're pretty strict, so we gave him an error. He's only a sophomore, is Mike Stelrick, but he's going to be a good one. He will move over and play short. He played with Labdell last year. Labdell was our shortstop, and Stelrick, they were pretty tough up the middle. The first thing we look to do to build a championship team is build up through the middle. So it starts with the field general behind the plate and Mack. That's set in stone. Stelrick will move to short. Second base, we've got a couple guys that I'll speak about in a second. We got to decide who's going to man that. And then we look to solidify center field. Okay. And then we move around. We've only got 4 starters back from a year ago, but we've got a JV team that won their division, and we've got some players coming there. We got a very good nucleus. Just let me look away here. I got my team on the roster. We've got depth behind the plate. We've got Chris Coyle and Yusuf Hashimi and Riley Innerthar, and even Trey McClay can go if Joey were to get hurt. Joey's got a great arm, so we're careful with him. We know he's not going to pitch at the next level, but we may use him if the need arises. He could throw off the hill. He's thrown a little bit for us, in the past. At first base, we got Colin Freiling, who was a first teamer. McElroy was the second teamer. McElroy plays right field when he doesn't pitch, and he may have one of the strongest arms in the division. He threw 3 guys out at home plate last year on that. But we've got Ryan Simondera. His dad played for me back when Matt Natero played, or Mark Natero, back in the 90s. We've got Matt Gangloff, who also plays second base. He's a returner. Trey McClay and Jake Clone and Nate Milk and Glenn McClay can also play 3 infield positions. Glenn McClay's father played for me years ago, and his uncle played on my 1979 team on that. This is my 51st year, so I've been around. I tell my assistants that, there's going to be trouble if we start getting grandchildren, playing, which would be pretty funny. The outfield, McElroy will definitely hold down the right field job when he's not pitching. That could be Aiden Wojciechowski or Ethan New. Brendan Buccello, who's a freshman, is a possibility. And then we have Mike Dora, Nick Lewin, William Degolier, Ryan Skidmore, and Riley Inethar. And then we've got some other guys. One of the things that we look for, Tom, is we look for multi-positional players. Okay? These guys come in here and they say, well, I'm an infielder, coach. And I look at them and I said, you're an infielder if you got soft hands. If you got hands of stone, you don't have a prayer playing the infield for us. Okay? But I do tell them, and we do work them out. We try to get multi-position players because we'll go with the bats. We'll load the lineup with the guys that stick the ball, and then we'll make adjustments. So the pressure's always on to hit, always, because I like guys that can stick the ball. I'm the type of coach, I don't need the long. We've got guys that can hit the long ball, but I prefer singles and doubles because I like to run the bases. We're aggressive on the bases, and our attitude is you got to throw us out. You do that a couple times in an inning, or if we make a bonehead playing the bases and run ourselves out of an inning, then we got to become a little more conservative. But by nature, over the years, we've been a very aggressive team, and so give me a team that can run, that's got some speed, and can move the guys from station to station. Hello?
Hey, it looks like I think someone's phone just rang.
My phone, yeah.
Oh, I'm Gabby. I'm sorry. I could talk this next 3 hours. I'm just a Gabby guy, but it's we got to remember this. I don't care what kind of team you got. We have to remember as coaches, they're only kids. All right. And you know what? A guy like Joey Mack, who's one of the premier players in the area, he could come in that day and strike out 3 times. It happens. And we have to understand it. I guess the old cliche, that's why we play the game. And that's the fun part. But a lot of people don't know this about us. We are bigger. Academics actually mean more to us than the number of wins that we put on the board. We collect report cards. The kids got to go get teacher signatures every week, and we're on them, man. If a kid comes to me and says, Coach, listen, I got 2 tests and a paper due tomorrow, can I miss practice? The answer will always be yes on that, because we want them to get a good education and someday, hopefully get back to their community and that. So we're big bugs in academics. That's first and foremost. And we're very supportive of the teachers at East. And I had a player one year. He had a Mother's Day project for Spanish. I got a call from a Spanish teacher, and I called his father up, and I brought the kid in, and the father came to school, and I said, if your son doesn't have this project done by tomorrow, he's not playing. He'll be in street clothes. So academics will always be first and foremost in our program at East on that. But I enjoy it, and I enjoy the camaraderie with the coaches and it's been a great ride. I don't know how much longer I'm going to do it. There are other things I want to do with my life, and so it's basically I realize I'm on the backside, and it's basically year to year, but when that day comes, it will probably be the toughest decision I'll ever have to make.
I bet. Well, no doubt we'll be all missing you here in Western New York, if and hopefully it won't be for a little bit while, but no doubt. But
well, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I enjoy the competition. I think competition's great, and I think sports is a great discipline for young men and academics and that, because they find a way to knuckle down and get their studies out of the way and also have some fun. Because you know what? You can't play this game forever. So the best years of their life are high school and college.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, coaches, that's the end of my questions right there. I want to say thank you so much for joining me on the Western New York Athletics Coaches Corner. I couldn't have asked for 3 better guests today with 3 phenomenal programs. And let's hope the next time we ever get a chance to talk, that's going to be me covering you guys at the fields.